Just wrapped up my 6th week of training for Ironman Florida. It is coming up in 54 days, so just a little under 8 weeks to go, and I'm feeling great about my progress. This last week was a big week. It was the highest volume of my training period. Last week I did 22 and a half hours, including my strength training session, which was pretty grueling, but I'm pleased that I got through it. Really, it was a 9-day stretch of work that goes back to the weekend before last, where I ran 42 miles over 5 days, and I had a couple swims thrown in the mix as well. And then I followed it up with 13 and a half hours on the bike over the next 4 days with a couple more swims thrown in there. So it's something I've been kind of dreading for a while in my training plan, and I got through it, and it was great, and I'm better for it. If I had one concern going into training for a full-length Ironman, it would be the duration of the bike. I've run a marathon, I've done long swims before, I haven't done a lot of the really long bike rides. Training these last 2 years really for middle distance triathlon, I've done plenty of 40 to 60 mile bike rides. I've spent a long time on the bike, but I haven't really gone that far beyond 60 miles or 4 hours in the saddle. So far this training cycle, I've done an 80 mile, a 90 mile, and then over this weekend I did a 100 mile ride, and that makes me feel a lot more confident going into the race coming up in 54 days. So, this week it started out with an easy day on Monday. After all the running I did last weekend, I did back-to-back days of 11 and 10 miles over the weekend before last. So, nice easy recovery day Monday. Tuesday was my usual swim, and then a run in the afternoon. Ran about 7.9 miles on Tuesday afternoon. I learned some lessons during that run because it was very hot. The heat index was 104. Usually I've been keeping these runs nice, easy, trying to keep them in zone 2. But this one, I included a little bit of intensity in it, some short little bursts of intensity, a little fartlek, and it did not really go too well because with the heat and humidity, I wasn't able to have my heart rate recover. So even though I just did like 10, 20, 30 second bursts of a little intensity, my heart rate just wouldn't settle back down. And that's really, I think, due more to the heat and humidity than anything with my conditioning. I had to slow down, I had to walk a few times just to keep my heart rate under control because I wasn't trying to push myself that hard on the run. But that's definitely a good lesson for me to keep in mind for the future. Wednesday morning, I had a key running session. It was very hot that day. I ran at the hills at Vista View Park. I hit 11.6 miles. It was a very challenging run. I did a lot of hills. I'm really happy I got through that, and that was a big one. I had my running behind me. I did a strength session that afternoon. I only did one strength training session this week. I almost always do 2 strength training sessions per week, but because of all the volume I was doing this week, I'm only doing the one strength training session, but that's okay. Thursday, I was back at it with a swim, and I spent a feel-good hour on the indoor bike trainer, so nothing too crazy with that. Friday was a double session on the indoor trainer. I was happy on Friday that I didn't have to leave the house. I was a little bit run down after all the running and being outside. The weather was bad that day, but the training was a bit more grueling than I had anticipated. The early session was about an hour and a half in the morning. There was a lot of cadence play in that session. Some long, low cadence, high torque intervals, followed by rest intervals that were over 100 RPMs. You going from the strength based challenge of pedaling the bike at a high torque at a low cadence, under 60 RPMs, to then just following that up with very fast cadence over 100 RPMs. And that always makes for challenging both physically and neurologically to just keep the focus to do that. It's hard to keep the RPMs up over 100. You have to really focus on that and push yourself to do it. The PM bike session was just a grind. It was grueling, only an hour. I got through it and I felt good about it. And then Saturday morning, I got out nice and early. I rode my first ever century. I hit 100 miles, nice and easy. I'm not mixing duration with intensity. So if I'm going to go out on the bike for 6-7 hours, there's not going to be intensity that's going to be tied into that. I can do my intensity on the indoor trainer, right? In those shorter sessions. So this way I'm helping to manage my kind of global fatigue level, because spending that long outside on the bike, especially in the heat in South Florida, even if I'm not pushing it that hard, is going to be physically, mentally, emotionally demanding. So I got through the 100 miles. It was pretty good. I worked a lot on fueling and hydration and, just spending some time in the saddle. I did a run off the bike, which I decided to do indoors in the gym just because I had spent 7 hours outside in the heat. The heat index was about 105 when I was done. And I figured, in the interest of managing my overall stress level, managing my overall energy levels, I'd be better off doing that easy run inside in the air conditioning on the treadmill, which was a really good decision. The run went well. I felt strong throughout it, even after all that time on the bike. So I was very pleased with that. And then Sunday morning, I was back at it again, out at 6 a.m. for another long bike ride. I had 4 hours on Sunday morning. Just over 60 miles. Again, not much intensity, a lot of work on fueling and hydration, getting used to being on the saddle. I was pretty fatigued. I was tired. If you've ever spent, 13 and a half hours on a bike over 4 days, it kind of wears you out a little bit. But I was happy that I really got through that. And, this really was kind of the biggest challenge of this training period for me, was just this week in particular, all this volume on the bike. But I went through it and, it went well. So I'm very pleased with that. After the bike ride on Sunday morning, I did a 4,400 yard race simulation swim. I really faced some challenges getting this swim in, just finding space at the pool. I noticed that, after all this time exercising, it really drained my energy, being outside in the heat for so long, and I was pretty irritable. Yesterday on Sunday afternoon, I let a lot of the things that, derailed my progress get to me. It put me in a pretty foul mood, but, now after a good night's sleep last night, I woke up, I'm feeling great again today, a little fatigued, but it's going to be another nice, easy session today, focused on recovery. I'm going to go do about half an hour strength and mobility at the gym. Nothing crazy. I'm not going to push it too hard. And then hopefully tomorrow morning I will wake up and be 100% again, so I can tackle a swim in the morning and then a run in the afternoon. The volume to start out week 7 of my program this week is going to be a little bit lower, with all the volume that I did last week, to allow for some recovery, physically, mentally, emotionally, making sure that I'm ready, because I still have a lot more training to go for this, right? There's still many more hard sessions to come for me. I've got a lot more progress to make, but all in all, things are going great. I feel great, and I'm happy that I got through this most recent challenge. I feel great about my progress, and I am looking forward to getting to Panama City Beach in just under 8 weeks and tackling Ironman Florida.